guys, welcome back to the channel. So recently I was looking at the videos that I have done on conducting and I realized that I never really done one video where I explain all of the basics of conducting. So I've done things looking at my scores or explaining whether an orchestra can play without a conductor or not, but I want this video to be conducting 101, but you know, not like those kind of serious type of videos where it's like the conductor. It's more like me telling you the basics of what we do, from the stuff that we use like the batons, the score, to what we're showing, the schemes, how they look like, and then go more into different styles and why conductors look also different and it's so hard to tell whether they're doing something impactful or not. We are. My name is Anna, I am an orchestra conductor, and if you already know about conducting, maybe skip this one and check any other of my lovely videos. So the kind of very first basic thing that I want to show you is sort of the material stuff that we work with or that we need, which is not much. It's not, you know, as much as a violinist who needs the violin and the resin and the, you know, headrest, shoulder rest and all of that. But we do use batons. So pretty much a baton is there to, wait, I'm like Edward Scissorhands. So yeah, the reason we use the baton pretty much is because it's much easier to see from the distance than, you know, it's pretty much a longer arm, so if someone's like way in the back, it's much easier to see. And if you conduct 3 hours of something, obviously if you have something that enhances your movements, then you don't need to be, you know, instead of doing this, I can sort of do this and it's the same and I'm moving way less. But there are many conductors that don't use a baton because they might not find it comfortable. To be honest, if you don't have a comfortable grip, that you're not noticing that you're gripping, it can be a hindrance. And I will say that I still have not found my perfect baton. I still kind of have issues. I'll show you what I mean. So these are all the batons that I have sort of tried thus far. Well, this one's a repeat. And as you can see, they have different grips, and that changes a lot how much you have to sort of be holding it or gripping it. Obviously, if this is, you know, thinner and this is much bigger in my hand. So for example, when I tried this, it was because I felt like I was having to grip too much the previous one, and so I wanted one that sort of fit in my hand better, and so I didn't have to hold it too much because it was bigger. But the problem that I encounter is that then it was much heavier because this is all, you know, cork, and it just after a while felt really heavy and really out of balance for me because this part was much heavier than this part, and so it made me sort of break my gesture in bits because it wasn't comfortable. So I'm currently going with this, which I find much more comfortable, you know, like to hold the line, but I still feel like the grip here is a bit forced because it's so thin. So, you know, eventually I'm hoping I'll find one that is a little bit bigger here but not heavier. And honestly, I think most conductors that, you know, travel the world and conduct every single week in, you know, different places, they get them custom made. So maybe one day I will be able to do that too. And the other thing, of course, that we need are the scores. I've talked about this in length in a video I'll put here, but pretty much in a conductor score you have all of the instruments that are playing in front of you, and there are different sizes. So this is what's called a pocket score. This is not meant to be used by a conductor whilst conducting because it's very, very tiny. The only issue is that these are obviously cheaper than the bigger version, so sometimes when you're a starting conductor and you have to buy that many scores, this is what you'll get for a while. So it's alright, you just have to, you know, look really hard. And then this is the actual sort of conductor score. This is the size, you know, as you can see, it's much bigger. But also I do want to show you that if you do contemporary music, you'll probably end up with scores this big or even this big. Simply because it's just so detailed that it just doesn't fit. And if you try to put this on a, you know, normal size chord, it would just be like a blur, like you wouldn't be able to read it. So usually contemporary music scores are huge. And now a little bit to the actual gesture. So you'll find this in a very sort of educational video about conducting with all the graphs, but pretty much So the information that we're giving is how fast, how soft or how loud, how you want the articulation of the sound to be, if you want, things to be snappy, or if you want them to be all, slurred together and very legato, and many, many other details. But the thing is, you could just give this information by beating a regular beat that, shows the beat of the music, the speed of the music, and then giving this information anywhere, randomly. You could do that, but the problem with that is that it's just never very clear where you are in the music. So if someone is looking away and then looks back, or if someone has to wait 10 minutes before they enter, it's much more useful if you are giving this information within a scheme that is very clear to everyone exactly what beat you are meaning of what is written. So if you have music written in 2/4, the scheme that you always learn is here's the 1 and here's the 2, right? It's 1, 2, 1, 2. This looks really deformed because it's the camera, but whatever. If you're in 3, you know that the scheme is 1, 2, and 3. And if you're in 4, you know that the scheme is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if someone is doing something else, looking away, and and then they come back and they see me here in a 4x4, for example, they know this is beat 3. And so the information I'm giving is for beat 3. Whether if I was just, doing whatever and I give you an information and you're not paying attention, it's just much clearer to keep it in a scheme. But having said that, that is the reason why sometimes you don't recognize this when you watch a conductor. Some conductors are extremely clean, and any information that they give, if they're going like a staccato or is legato or whatever is soft, is loud, they're always giving it exactly in the same point of the scheme. But some other conductors really don't, and this depends a lot on what orchestra they're working with, whether they need this or not. Because one thing is to be conducting Beethoven Fifth, and another thing is to be conducting this. So if you're conducting Beethoven Fifth, which is something everybody has heard, once you set the tempo, once you set the speed, no one's ever gonna get lost as to where they are in the music. They're really not, because A, they've played it a million times, and B, it's very straightforward. It's always in the same pattern. Whereas if you have a music like this, the challenge with this is that you have a bar in 4/4, you have a bar in 5/4, you have a bar in 3/8. Every single bar changes constantly the organization of the beats, the duration of the beats even. It might have tempo changes. It might go from like really fast to slow to fast in the space of 40 seconds. So there you really do need a conductor to really stick to a very clear gesture, because there it could happen that someone looks away for a minute or enters later, and they really need to understand, okay, this is where I am, this matches where I'm looking at, and I go in here. Then the other basic thing that they teach you in conducting, which some people do, some people don't, is what you do with your left hand. So supposedly the most clean-cut education you get is right hand show the beat and the scheme and the speed, and with your left hand you can try and show other things. So you can be beating something here and here trying to show, like, I want this line to be delicate, or giving an entrance to someone and then going away. The thing that they always go like, don't do this, is to just show both things with both hands, because pretty much it's doubling an information that doesn't need to be doubled. This is enough. If you do it with both hands, it's kind of like visual noise. You're better off doing nothing with the other hand, really. The other very important thing to understand about conducting is that there are two very different stages. One is the rehearsal process and the other one is the actual performance. And the conducting in those two things can look very different, because when you're rehearsing, you're setting the basis for what's going to happen later, and you're hoping that the orchestra is not going to need you. Do you know what I mean? You don't want them to have to rely on you for every single thing, and most of the time, if it's a professional orchestra, they don't, because they're great musicians. So you go into the rehearsal. That is probably the first time that everyone is getting together to do that piece. They all know what's coming. If you know, if it's something that's very unknown, maybe individually the people might decide to have a look at it at home. If it's Beethoven Fifth, they're like, I don't need to look at this. So when you get to rehearsals, you're pretty much setting your vision of what you want from the piece, which might be very different from the last time that they did it. And also you're there to rehearse technical difficulties. So if it's, like I said, a piece that has a very difficult passage for an instrument or a group of people, and if not, then you need to show them what your tempo is going to be, communicate the ideas you want, like I want this phrase to go all the way to here. Because the thing with an orchestra is you have a lot of people with very different sort of approaches to things. So you might have a whole section of brass and they see a chord with a sforzato, which means, you know, you have to play loud and then soft. Exactly how loud and then exactly how soft, or how quickly they're gonna go from loud to soft, is really subjective. So you have to go have an idea of how you want that to sound, then listen to what they're doing as a group, and then adjust. Go like, hey horns, I think you're quickly going into the piano and I want that to be more gradual, so you know, and you kind of like balance things out. Another thing you might need to be working with is the acoustic of wherever you are at, because places have very different acoustics, you know. Churches have that acoustic that has like a lot of reverb, so things last a long time. So for example, you might need to consider that if you have a chord and then you cut off and then you start again, that cutoff might need to be longer because the resonance of the play. So there's a lot of things that you go into rehearsals with your idea of how it should sound, you listen to what they're doing and you adjust to put those two things together. And your idea of how it should sound, of course, comes from studying the piece, studying history, studying the style, many other things. It's not like, oh, I woke up and I decided on this. But then when you go into a concert, all those things have been rehearsed. They know how you want the chorus. They know about, you know, what tempo is going to be. They know what type of sound you had in mind. You've rehearsed it. You've had a general rehearsal. So you can be a bit freer in exactly what you show in a concert, or the opposite if you see that things are not working. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not like they're going to a concert to get all the information from you from zero. You've been rehearsing. So that's also why you might find that sometimes a very high level professional orchestra with a very high level conductor, when they go into a concert, sometimes they back off. They do very little because maybe that's what they feel at the time. Maybe they feel like, oh, this is being too, this moment is very intimate and I feel like they're coming in with a lot of energy, so I'm gonna just show, you know, the intimacy that I want and I don't need to be beating 1, 2, 3, and 4. But obviously there are things that you're always gonna be needed for, even if it's Beethoven Fifth, like for example, and I'll discuss this in a video about Beethoven Fifth, like fermatas, which are stops. You know, everybody stops. And when do we leave that stop? Whenever the conductor signals it. Because again, if everybody had an opinion about, okay, this is enough, it would never be together. You are never going to get 70 people to have the same opinion on how long we should hold this. So it's much easier when that goes to one person who has one criteria and, you know, hold the note, we leave the note. Same for accelerando, changes of tempo. Sometimes you start with a beat and then you need to start getting quicker and quicker and quicker until you get to some other beat. And again, if everybody just decided like, oh, I'm gonna start getting quicker individually, it would be a horrendous mess. So that's where you do again need someone to be signaling, and that needs to be there. All this stuff that I'm mentioning need to be there during the concert as well. Okay, so I hope this was clear. I feel in the end it ended up being more of a commentary and not such an instructional video. But I do feel like there's a lot of those out there. If you look for Conducting 101, you do have very clear sort of this is the scheme, which are great. But I wanted to give you more of an insider kind of explanation as to what those things are and why sometimes you don't see them and you were wondering like what the heck. So this is why. And as always, comments and questions are welcome in the comment section, and I will see you next time.